Hey everybody, this is Josh Lyles of Sales-CRM. I'm here with Trey Griggs of Beta Consulting Group. Trey, what's with the logo
What's
on the
up?
shirt? What did we just do today?
Dude, we just rebranded everything and it's really exciting. It's a lot of fun. When I started Beta Consulting Group, I used my personal logo, the cartoon I'll still use that. But I had a graphic designer look at that logo and say, your right ear kind of looks like a B. Let's just make that the B for Beta and we'll just make a logo out of that. And I was like, cool, go for it. I mean, this is at the very beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any time. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm like, that's perfect. Let's just do it. I chose blue because it's a trust color. So I just went with blue.
Sure.
So that was kind of our color theme. And as we've grown, as we've matured and our team has gotten better, and the iteration of our team right now, they came to me about 4 months ago and like, would you be okay if we change things up a little bit? And one thing I've learned, especially in 2023, I think this is the biggest lesson I learned in 2023, is that as the CEO of this company, I have to get out of the way for us to be great. I have to step back and let people that I've hired, who I trust, who are more talented in other areas than I am, I got to let them run. And this was one of those areas where, I could have taken it personally because it was obviously my cartoon logo and all that. But at the same time, I've got great people that had great ideas. And I said, yeah, let's run with it. Let's do it. And so we have a new logo. And I asked you this before the show, but I'll ask you again, like, what's the first thing that you see when you look at this logo?
I see sound waves.
That's right. And that's intentional because we do communication, man. We do podcasting, we do messaging, we help with testimonials and video and commercials, anything that is going to help communicate. And so we wanted to make sure that was a big part of the logo. That's what they came up with. And there's also some hidden things in there as well. Obviously, our acronym BCG is in there. But if you look at it closely, if you look at it like from a top down view, it almost looks like traffic on a highway, like cars and trucks going this way, cars and trucks going that way, because we're in transportation. That's our biggest industry.
Transportation.
We didn't plan it that way. I just saw that one day when I saw the logo. I was like, that looks like cars and trucks from top down, like traveling down the road. So it was really fun to put that together. Our new color scheme is a sage green with black and white. So we got some new colors going out there, and it's just been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's exciting stuff. The hats look good too. Trey's got a bunch of hats,
I do. I should show those
cups.
off real quick too. So we got a
Yeah,
couple
let's
of
take
these.
a
We're going
quick
to be
look at
passing
those.
some of these out at Manifest here coming up soon. So we got the gray with the logo, and then we got a black with a white logo, pretty sharp
I like
there. And then we have a black on black, which
that
that's my
black on
favorite.
black.
That's
That's clean.
that's my favorite. So we're gonna have a little bit
Love
of fun with
those.
that. Got to keep it fresh. Got to keep people guessing a little bit and just have a little fun.
And so you're going to be at Manifest and TIA, correct?
Yep, and then Broker Carrier Summit. Those are the three that I'm focused on, and then of course TMSA in the summer starts in June. That's going to be in New Orleans. So those four events in the next 4 months for us.
Good deal. Staying busy, staying on the road.
Trying not to, man. My kids are getting older. Trying not to. We'll see. Kind of have to.
Good deal. Well, that's exciting stuff, man. Why we're here is to basically go through some website roasts for companies that are in trucking,
Let's roast them.
transportation,
Let's go.
logistics, and freight brokerage. We posted on LinkedIn about roasting some websites, basically just free feedback. Look, this is going to be constructive feedback. This isn't to tear people down by any means. This is basically and I think this is really important because everything that goes with your website aligns with your brand, with your marketing, with your sales. It all is aligned in some way. But just for you, you're the leader of Beta Consulting Group. You guys help people with messaging, with positioning, with video testimonials. What would you say is the importance of a website for a company that's in trucking, logistics, freight brokerage?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have to determine what your website is used for. What's the purpose of it? So let me give you a couple of examples. If you have a SaaS-based product, if you're a technology company out there and you have a self-serve purchasing capability, if somebody can just sign up for your product, then your marketing, your website is more of a sales tool. It really is something to get people to convert from a sales perspective. If you have more of a services-based offering or consultative approach or freight brokerage, for example, people aren't going to buy that right away. You want them to one, validate who you are as a company. So they come to your website to make sure that you're legit. You want to provide some free value for them, something that will help them in terms of making decisions on who they want to work for. And then you want to have a clear call to action to make sure that whatever you want them to do, whether it's, request a quote, schedule a call, fill out a form, whatever it is, that it's very clear so that they take that next step. So it's all about helping them take the next step. If you're an entertainment outlet or news outlet, then your website has a very different purpose. Like Freightwaves has a different purpose than a freight brokerage would have or a carrier would have. So understanding your business is really important, understanding the purpose of your website and what you want to communicate, what you want it to look like, the feel, the experience. mean, if you're selling a SaaS product and they can sign up online, you want to make that as easy as possible for them to do that. Remove the friction and just make it super simple and give them a reason to do that in your messaging of why they should go ahead and sign up for the service. So again, it's just understanding the purpose of your website is the beginning portion of it. And then we can talk about messaging and all those kind of things. But a lot of people come to websites today just to validate who you are, just to get a better feel, get a little more trust, a little more certainty, a little more comfort in terms of working with you. If you meet somebody at a trade show or if you meet them at an event, you give them a business card, one of the first things they're probably going to do is visit your website, see what's going on. A lot of the younger generation is actually skipping that and going straight to social media. But a lot of people still visit websites just to validate who you are.
Of course. Yeah, it's a big selling tool, and obviously, like you mentioned, validation. So let's jump into it. Let's start by roasting.
All right, let's
some
go.
Of these. We're going to go through about 4 or 5 of these, depending on
Now,
time here.
We must say I haven't seen these yet. I've decided not to look at these. So this is brand new. It's fresh off the cuff, which I think is some of the best response, best reaction you can get. So here we go.
Agreed. Yes, I asked Trey, would he prefer to see them up front, or would he rather just look at them on the spot? So he is seeing these for the first time, except I know he's been to one of these websites before, as all of us probably have. All right, let me pull this up. So the first website that we have here is from our friend Sarab with Sorma Trucking.
So all right, Sorma Trucking.
So let's see this from the beginning. We see the headline with Premier Transportation Logistics Provider. What do you see here, Trey?
All right, so right off the bat, I feel like this is a trucking company. I hope it is a trucking company. I see a truck with their branding on it. I think that's powerful. I think custom pictures are really powerful. The standard generic ones don't do that. Do something that's custom, even if maybe this isn't their truck, but they got their brand on it. It looks great. I think that's a phenomenal opening picture, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. The truck is clean. All right.
Yep.
That's also important because again, a dirty truck. Man, what does that tell you about a company? Sometimes they don't take care of the equipment. I know trucks get dirty, but man, when you see a clean truck, it looks good out on the road. So clean truck, logo on it. Love that. Simple navigation bar. I like that. It's just home, about, services, contact, and apply to drive. So if I'm looking at this, just from what I'm seeing right now, their primary purpose here is to get drivers to sign up. And let me tell you why. The primary purpose is that in the upper right-hand corner, their call to action is apply to drive. That's for carriers. So that's telling me that the most important thing in their mind is they want drivers to apply. This is a recruiting tool for their company. That's what it looks like right now. Now, if we look at their headline, Premier Transportation Logistics Provider, that tells you what they do, but it doesn't invite you into a story. It doesn't make you want to be a part of their movement, of their mission, of their team, because it's not speaking to the prospect. In this case, the prospect I would imagine would be a shipping company. So it's not speaking to a shipping company. It's just simply saying this is what we do. A better headline might be something like, we allow you to go home easy or early at night by taking care of all your transportation needs. Because when you think about who's coming to this website, it's probably going to be a transportation manager who is looking to work with a carrier, might be an owner of a small company. A lot of shippers are mom and pop shops. They're small. So what do they really want? Man, they want somebody to take care of their transportation. That's not why they're in business. They're not in business for transportation. They're in business to make a product, whatever they're doing. And they want their transportation to be taken care of. And they want to go home at night and not to think about it. So having a headline that speaks to that makes it like, yeah, that's what I want. Subconsciously, they're going to say, yes, that's what I want. Also, another critique is I would make sure that the headline is easier to read. So the white lettering on a white truck, a little difficult to read. I might move it over to the grass because then it's got a green background. So put that white headline over there on the green side, which is in front of the truck. I think that might be a great place to look. People look left to right. So they read that, they see the truck. I think that would be a good place to put it. So I would move that over to the grass just to make it a little easier to read, because you don't want to make it hard for people to read your website or to see it. I do like the fact that it's pretty scannable. Not a lot of words yet. All right. That's good, because people are making decisions every day of whether or not they want to spend the time to read or to consume the information that you have. And in our social media world, short attention spans, videos, 10-second videos, 140 characters on Twitter, people aren't reading a lot. They want to get their information and get it quickly. That's a part of how the brain works, is it tries to conserve those calories in understanding things. So I love the fact that it's scannable right now. They do have a big call to action for shippers. Need a trucking freight quote now, contact us. So in this case, their call to action is they want you to reach out. Now go ahead and click that button. Let's see what it does. Let's see where that button goes. All right, so here we go. So they want to fill out a form, And it looks like it's simply just to contact us. Now, one thing I'd recommend is this, is you could take it up a notch and you could qualify your customers a little bit better just by asking some specific questions about their needs. How urgent is your next move? What type of freight do you move, or what mode of transportation do you need? A van, flatbed, a reefer? Those types of questions, you can find out a little bit more information, and then you can become a little bit
Okay.
more prepared to a call. So
So you're
contact
saying
us is totally
customize
fine.
the form here with
I
like
totally customize the
basically,
form.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And location, that's a good one, kind of a headquarters. That's not bad, but I would ask a little bit more about their needs. Like, what exactly do they need? How urgent is it? Like, when's your next move? What type of freight do you move? Are you needing vans, flatbeds, or reefers? Drop down menu. Something really simple. It's kind of click and touch. Like, they don't have to type in a lot of
Okay.
information. That's the other thing too, is that if you can make drop down menus or selections, that's super easy. You and I know that clicking on a button is a lot easier than typing information. So
Preach
you
that
are
about
you
the
probably
CRM all the time.
yeah, you probably know what your customers' options are in terms of what they need. Is it a van, flatbed, reefer, LTL? Like,
Hmm.
what's their biggest need, or what do they need help with? And they can just click them. Man, that's super easy to do that. So I would customize that form and make it a little bit more detailed. Not much, just a little more detail to help you out and to let them know. Like, if they see that, then they know that you know you're their business. This is a generic form. This doesn't really tell them anything about you knowing their business. But if they see the options that you've predetermined for them are accurate, man, they're going to go, yeah, these people know my business. So that the form can have a massive impact on that. So I would encourage that. Let's go back to the main page real
That's a
quick.
good call out.
Let's go back to the main page. Let's just scroll down. So a lot of websites now are scrolling, which is great. People are used to scrolling, so that's great. So you've got so let's pause for a second. Go back up for just a little bit. So you've got the same copy twice. Need a trucking freight quote now. Need a trucking freight quote now. I would use that second space to communicate something different, to communicate a way that what's important to them, or the stakes that are involved here. Like, why is this so important that they work with a great transportation provider? What is it that they're missing out on? Is it they're losing money because they're working with a poor provider? Is that the problem? Are trucks not showing up? Is their product getting damaged? There's a lot of things that can happen with a carrier. So speak to that at this section and let them know that you understand what the stakes are. You know how valuable this is. If they're moving food, for example, if they're moving like fresh fish or something like that it's timely, like to restaurants, then you understand that delivering in full is really important in those situations. So communicating a message that lets them know that you understand the stakes that are involved here. What does success look like? What does failure look like for them? And you want to move in that direction. So what I'm seeing from this website so far is it's more of, here's what we do. Do you want it? As opposed to really getting into the elements of story and talking through that a little bit. Let's focus on the words here. With Storma Trucking, you get freight trucking you can depend on every day, any day. I love that. That's a great line, but it's really small font. I might make
Right.
that a header. That might be what you put instead of need a
That might be
trucking
the
freight quote
second
now.
area here.
Yeah, make that a header, make that really big, easy to read, and just put that in there. And then if you want to talk a little more, you can make it a subheader or a little bit of copy in the website. But I like
I
that
like what
phrase.
you
That's a
also
really good
said.
phrase.
I also like what you said at the beginning of this, though, of when you're talking about sort of selling the story, you're telling the story, but also the benefit of it, right? Like peace of mind and like those kinds of different things for what people can be looking for. I mean, I think that this trends in that direction and would definitely be a good
Yes.
header, but speaking to your audience in terms of the benefit that you provide to them, I think is something that it would be really valuable versus just like maybe the direct ask.
Yeah, you've got to sell results. You've got to sell benefits, not features. What is this going to do for you? Like, what's the result going to be? What's the outcome? How's this going to make me feel? How's this going to make my life better?
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't care how you do it. They care what it does for them. They care what the result is. All right. So I think that's really important. All right, let's scroll down a little bit more. We'll go through this a little bit faster. So we've got a couple of boxes down here. I would say too many boxes. All right. So what this looks like to
Okay.
me is a carrier that's trying to be all things to all people. And the market responds better when you're really niche. So what do you do great? So they've got freight trucking. What exactly is that? They got government freight trucking. I mean, the government government stuff, refrigerated, expedited full truckload, expedited LTL, logistics services. So this makes me think that they're actually an asset-based broker, because they're doing more, like, they can't possibly do all this with their own trucks. They're not doing LTL with their own trucks, I would imagine, unless, I mean, maybe they are. But what it feels like to me is all things to all
Mm-hmm.
people. And the more niche you can get, the better. So what do you do the best? Like you probably have 100 customers. What do 75% of them have you move? What do 60% have you move? Like, what are you the best at? And let's talk about that. Right. And do you want more of that type of business? If that's good business, let's get more of it. Maybe it is your heavy part of your business, but it's not good business. You're needing to get different business. You need to speak to the kind of business that you want, the kind of business that you're great at, and the kind of business that the market wants. I always tell people the convergence of a great product market fit is what does the market need? What are they willing to pay for? And what do you do great? Right? If you can find those three things, that's really important. So I would narrow the scope of this a little bit to say this is what we do really well. And then you can talk about the additional services that you do as well. But this is our bread and butter. This is who we are. Like, what do you want your brand to be known for? What do you want it to be known for? Most people have one or two things they do better than everything else. Let's focus on that. Let's talk about that. All right, we'll scroll down a little bit more here. All right, need a trucking freight quote now. So that phrase keeps kind of coming up as a call to action. It's not terrible to have the same call to action. It's a reminder. I like the fact that it is down further because as people scroll, sometimes the headers go away. Sometimes the call to action is different. As you can see, the call to action in the header is apply to drive. That's a recruiting call to action. So here we're reminding that shipper that, hey, you need a freight quote? Contact us. All right. So those repeating headers or calls to action are good to have on a scrolling website. That's good. We compare shipping rates. Yeah, go ahead.
One question on that, Trey. Do you think it'd be better for them? And I'm just genuinely curious here. Is it good to use the same phrasing, or should they be asking the same question different ways?
See, I think it's good to ask the same question different ways because it just makes it a little bit more fresh. Otherwise, people might see that and just kind of gloss over it, like, oh, it's the same thing, same thing.
Got it.
You want to keep it short, but I think varying it a little bit might be good. What's your next freight move? Contact us. Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, something a little bit different. The contact us is really the call to action. The words there is just more kind of like, priming the pump for that call to action.
Okay. All right. Let's go
All right.
through
So,
this one, and then let's see what we've got here at the tail end of the website.
all right. So we compare shipping rates. So they're talking about not many trucking freight brokers go with the first rate offered. We are not brokers. We are carriers. Okay. So they're clarifying here that they are a carrier. So again, there's a little bit of confusion now because if we go back up and we see all the things that they do, I would question if they can do all that with their own trucks. Maybe they do, but this seems like a lot that they're doing with their own trucks. They also have logistics services down there as one of their boxes. So we see the logistics services. If you go up to the boxes, you see logistics services in the bottom left corner there. That's one of their options is logistics services. So that makes it sound more like a brokerage. So there's some confusing language here in terms of what they do. If you have a brokerage and an asset-based side, my recommendation is that you come out with that. But that's very clear. That you talk about how we have a lot of flexibility because we have a brokerage arm as well. We have a carrier arm as well. Mm-hmm. So don't try to hide it because otherwise it can get a little bit confusing in terms of, okay, in this case, you're saying you're not a broker, but you also say you do logistics services. Which one is it? I don't know.
Okay.
So I'd just be more consistent about that in terms of who you are in that regard. Maybe this is copy that somebody else wrote. Unlike freight brokers, we don't need to rely on other carriers for trucks. We use our own assets to ship your product. Our fleet consists of state-of-the-art equipment. So it sounds like they're just purely a carrier. I would question why they have logistics services in there if they're not a broker.
I feel like it'd be interesting too for them to throw in how many trucks that they own. If they do all those services, I think that would give a little bit more validation to them being able to carry out all those services on their own assets.
And what would be interesting too is if they do have a fleet of trucks that are different types of trucks, like a different, maybe they've got full-size vans, maybe they have straight trucks, maybe they have Sprinter vans, to show that off, because it's kind of fun when you go to like an airline, for example, and they show you their fleet. They show you the big 787s and the 747s and all, like you see all the different size of planes and the different, it's just fun. It's kind of a behind the scenes, look at what's going on there. So if they do have different types of trucks, that'd be cool to have a graphic to kind of show these are the trucks that we have available. Because if they can do expedited LTL, that's great. What truck do they use for that? It's probably going to be a Sprinter van or a straight truck or something like that. All right, coming down a little bit further, connections with the right
logo on all those.
Yeah, 100%. Just brand those babies up, 100%. Connections with the right general freight trucking partners or carriers. Connections with the right general freight trucking partners. I would say this is, headers need to be short and they just need to make perfect sense. Like, just
Hmm.
you don't have to read them more than once. The wording on that I think could be done just a little bit better, just to make it clear. Connections with the right general freight trucking partners. Okay, so our carriers are
This
special to
seems
us.
more like this seems more like brokerage language now.
It does. It does. It does sound like brokerage. So again, there's just kind of that. There's that a little bit of conflict of language there. And then
Okay.
fast freight trucking services you can depend on. Once we confirm the travel strategy to get your delivery from point A to B, we don't change it as we go along. This way, you'll be able to relax. So they're just saying we pick a strategy and then we go with it. But again, that kind of sounds like brokerage again. That they're choosing the mode. Like, is this going to be intermodal? Is this going to be on our trucks? Is this going to be brokered out? How are we going to get it there? And then there's always kind of the technology play. So a lot of companies like to talk about technology. Here's what I would say. If you really have great technology, I would dedicate a page to this. I would dedicate a page to explaining how your technology is different, how you've built your tech stack that gives you an advantage. So right now, this is pretty generic, state-of-the-art transportation management systems. I don't think this means anything to anybody. How does this actually make my experience as a shipper better? Right? What does this look like? What's the process? Why did you choose these technologies? If technology is great, I'd make it a separate page and talk about that. Maybe tease a little bit and say, have a link to it and say, let us show you how our technology makes your life better. Why we chose this technology, something along those lines. Right?
I mean, even just this one line, like track your freight online, that in itself, right? If somebody has the confidence that they can do that, they don't have to call somebody. I mean, that may not be the specific benefit that people are looking for, and I know that that's not technically state of
Yep.
the art or whatnot, but I guess compared to just saying like, hey, we've got great tech, just talking more about the benefit if that's maybe what somebody's looking for.
Yeah, I mean the tech stack is a part of the customer experience. Like, what do we use at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
to quote it? What do we use in the middle to make sure that it's serviced correctly? What do we use at the end to make sure we bill you correctly? And bullet points are really valuable here because bullet points are scannable, whereas copy becomes less scannable. So if you want to show off your tech stack, show off the different tech solutions that you've got in play and why they're going to make this customer experience, this load experience even better, and use bullet points. Super easy to scan on bullet points. So what are the features, or what are the benefits, I should say, of this? Track your freight online, so you don't have to worry about getting a hold of us. You can do it yourself. Billing that's always accurate, because we never send it out until at least 3 days after, to make sure all the billing's correct. I mean, just whatever it is that they're doing, and the technology that's allowing that, show that off. You actually have tell us about the state of the art tech that you have, and why it matters. Why did you choose Sales Dash CRM for your sales? Why did you choose, I don't know, any of them, 3PL systems or TIE software? Why did you choose that TMS? There's a reason you chose it. Why did you choose it? And how does it actually help me out? What does it do for me? So I think that'd be good to do. And then they got the call to action at the bottom. Again, I think that's great. It's kind of the scrolling thing. If you're going to scroll, have those call to actions repeated. That's a good thing to do. And then at the bottom, it looks like just a standard footer, which is totally fine. So not a bad homepage. Couple things to correct on there. We're not going to be able to go through all the pages on there, but there's a little bit of constructive feedback for Stormer Trucking. And again, I love the opening picture. I think that's sharp with their branding on it. More of that, please. More of that, please.
All right, we're going to bring up
one
the
more piece of
next
advice.
one.
One piece of advice.
2
Most
seconds
people
here.
these days are used to the logo in the upper left-hand corner being the home button, like return to the main page. So you can remove the home button from the navigation bar, and it actually cleans it up just a little bit. So if you get rid of the home button, it gives you room for one more like page or button, like the technology page could go up there in the navigation bar, and you get rid of the home button because most people are used to clicking on the logo to go home.
Gotcha. Okay. Quick
All right.
pause, Trey.
One down.
I'll cut this out. But if you see me like pausing when you're transitioning, for some reason it keeps lagging on my end. So I'll cut
Okay,
this out,
no worries.
obviously. But if you see me like not responding to you, that's the reason why.
Don't cut this out. Let people know technology is what it is. We're doing the best we can. It happens.
All right. Good deal. Yeah. Tech can shout out to Riverside FM for helping us out with this. All right. we're gonna move on to the second one here. We've got Hands On Freight, owned by Jim Hand.
Hands On Freight. Okay. Oh, Jim Hand, Hands On Freight. I like it. I like the play on the words. All right.
Good play.
Very good. Very good.
What do we see
Hands
here?
On Freight. All right, so I might. This is just something is I might do hyphenated hands-on because hands-on is an adjective, so it's more of a hyphenated hands-on adjective. But that's neither here nor there. All right, so hands-on freight. Here we go. So we've got the title at the top. I'd probably, if he has a logo, I'd probably work on the logo and move it over to the left-hand side. People are used to that logo, or maybe just move hands-on freight over to the left-hand side. People are just kind of used to a separation on the navigation bar. And if it's going to stay up there in the navigation bar, I'd move it over to the left. Again, I'd remove the home button because, again, that hands-on freight logo, whatever it is, should be the home button to return to. So same concept on that. All right, let's get into it. So very clean website with the white and a couple of bubbles. So very clean. You got the trucks from overhead. Although I will say this, that picture looks like trucks not found in the United States. Those look like European trucks. If you look closely, the cabs just look different than the cabs that we have here. So my recommendation, this is a stock photo. And again, I'm not a fan of stock photos. I would rather have a custom photo of their team here. That'd be great so people could see their team. That could be a good one. Or maybe a photo of if they're able to put their logo onto a truck or on the side of a car, if he's got a wrap on his car for his company. Just something custom is always better. In regards to that. And so it could be their team picture, it could be something else, or it could be trucks in the United States. Maybe they put their logo on a truck to try to make it a little more custom in that regard. But if he's a broker, which an agent of Global Trans, I'm assuming he's going to be a broker, having a truck might be confusing. And again, these are not American trucks from my opinion. So I would find a different picture and possibly do something more custom or personal on the picture.
Or maybe if we got a picture of Jim leaning on a truck with his hand on the truck.
Oh, even better. There you go. That could be there. That's a great, I love that. That's a great advice. So I would say, Jim,
personalization.
That's right. Get a picture with your hand on a truck and do something with that. I think that could be really good. All right. So let's talk about the header here real quick. Hands-on freight transportation solutions. Okay. Again, doesn't really say what he does. I mean, transportation solutions kind of, but what could that be? That's a big category. That could be a lot of different things. So I try to get a little bit more specific about that. But again, talk about your customer. So as a broker, your customer is going to be the shipper and the carrier. So you really have two customers as a broker, and you should speak to both. If you're a broker, speak to both customers, the shipper and the carrier. But in this page here, the home page is more likely going to be for shippers because he's not really trying to recruit carriers so much because he's an agent of Global Trans. Global Trans probably has the carrier network. Like he's not really looking to do that. So this page should be dedicated to his customers, to shippers. All right. So what's he doing for his shippers? Working with hands-on freight. What does that actually do for the shipper? What's the shipper's primary problem? I'll say this over and over again. You have to, in your marketing, you have to constantly speak about the problem that your customer is experiencing. If you want to see this in action, this is the reason why cable news networks like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, this is why they have such great viewership, is because they're constantly talking about problems. And people want to listen when people talk about problems. Right? That the audience wants to listen whenever problems are discussed. We talked about this before, Josh. You had a great post about sharing good news. Right? You don't see a lot of good news on the news because that's not what people want to watch. They want to see the problems. They want to watch that. And so again, from a marketing perspective, you have to talk about your customer's problems. What problem is your customer facing as a shipper? Is it that they're a small shipper and they don't get much attention, and so they're not getting great service? Is it that trucks aren't showing up? Is it that their costs are not predictable because of reways and rebills and those like what is the main problem that you are able to solve and speak to that? So if you're going after shippers or that are doing transportation spend of $100,000 a year up to $1 million a year, if that's your sweet spot, man, what are they dealing with? What are the problems they're dealing with? And talk to it right here. Make sure that they understand. They know that you understand the problem that they're experiencing. So I'd work on that header to speak on that. It doesn't have to be long. It needs to be about 6 to 10 words. But in those 6 to 10 words, we want to capture that you understand what the problem is and you can help them solve it. All right. He's talking about global trans authorized agent. I think that's fine. I don't know if that's required by them or not, but that's fine. So if it's required, cool. If not, there's nothing wrong with that. It just lets them know that, hey, I'm a part of a bigger organization. Could be good, could be bad. I think it depends on who your shippers are and how they might take that. So just keep that in mind. Like, how is that going to be felt when they come to this and they go, oh, this guy's a Global Trans agent. Did they have a bad experience with Global Trans in the past? Did they have a good experience? So it's good to gauge that and try to figure that out, because if that's a problem, then you may not want to display it as prominently as it is right there.
Good
All
deal.
right,
Scroll along.
moving down. Okay, so next one. So I would say this, so scroll back up just a little bit. So on the website there's a lot of white space in between. So the scrolling, it takes a little bit longer. So you could close that gap just a little bit, make it easier on the person scrolling to not have to scroll quite as much to the next section. Okay. All right, going to the next section here, I would make the header a little bit larger. Efficient freight transportation. Okay, so not bad. It's talking about something that they do intentionally, is to be efficient with that. But what does that actually do? Like, what's the result for the customer? So efficient freight transportation, so that your freight arrives on time. Like just a little bit more in the header, and now you're speaking directly to that customer just a little bit more. So in the headers, always try to speak to the customer, and you want to invite them into this story that you're a provider that provides efficient transportation that makes sure that their product shows up on time. That's just gonna invite them in to want to be a part of the story just a little bit more. All right. Discover how hands-on freight streamlines the freight transportation process. So in this case, instead of putting a lot of words, this might be a really great place for a graphic or a timeline to talk about the process. So if it's really efficient, well, why is it efficient? And the old adage that a picture is worth 1,000 words is still true. So if you had a really cool graphic that talks about your process and what this actually looks like, what does this mean when you talk about efficient? Maybe there's a graphic that could be there. Maybe there's some bullet points that can talk about that a little bit more. I might look to change this picture. Again, it's a stock photo. As much as possible, I try to get away from stock photos. Maybe it's a picture of you shaking a customer's hand. If you got a customer close by, go over their place and have somebody take a picture of you shaking hands together. That could be a decent picture for something like that. All right. And again, following the hands-on theme. So that could be a good picture for you right there.
I like that.
All right.
That's a good suggestion.
Scrolling up a little bit more, our approach. So this is how you do it. And again, I think this is a great place for a bulleted a list as opposed to a paragraph. Again, are people going to want to actually sit there and read that? And if they read it, is it going to give them information that's really going to help them out? So I think the approach, especially if your approach is unique, outline what that is. What do you do differently than other freight brokerages? I mean, you started this freight brokerage for a reason. What do you do differently? What is it about you that's going to be unique, that's going to be valuable, that they're going to care about? And again, I would work on getting away from the stock photo. Maybe a photo of you in your office at your desk, or at a conference room with people on your team working, like you're working through this, you're figuring out what the approach is, you're making sure that everything's working seamlessly. So it's more of an operations section that we're talking about here. I would move towards more towards that approach and more towards a bulleted list or something like that.
Okay.
And our approach, I would say something like, we've spent a lot of time crafting our approach to give you the best customer experience. So just a little bit more on that headline. And again, if you take a picture of them in the conference room, sitting around working, it just goes together in that regard. All right, scrolling down a little bit more. It looks like we have another picture of containers.
I was going to say.
All right, so our services. Hands-on Freight offers a full suite of freight transportation services, full truckload, LTL. Okay, so again, this is the one area that I think freight brokers get into a lot of trouble, because almost every one of them wants to communicate to the market that they do everything, which might be true, but there's a couple things that they do really, really well. All right. Lean into that, like get into the niche, because the riches are in the niches. So what are you really, really good at? And maybe it's something like, we're just really good at van freight. Like we dominate van freight. Okay, great. Talk about it. Talk about why you dominate van freight. What is it that you know about van freight that helps you be really successful with that? So talk about that, because again, if that's the kind of freight that you like and you're really good at it, you want customers who have van freight to say yes. And you want customers that maybe don't have van freight, you might want them to say no. Because they might have freight that, yeah, you could do it, but it's not your specialty. It's going to take time off your plate. It's not going to give you life because it's just not your passion or what you do really well. So again, you have to know what type of business you really want to provide, like what you're really good at and what customers want. And again, if you do it right on the website, customers will self-qualify. They'll read that and go, oh, that's not us. We do cranes, or we do hopper bottoms, or whatever they're called. Like, we do something else. Okay, this isn't the right freight broker for us. And that's okay. That's okay. Get really good at van freight, where people are like, hey, listen, you got vans, you need to go talk to Hands-On Freight. You got to talk to Jim Hand. This guy knocks it out of the park. Like, just what do you want to be known for as a brand? Don't be all things to all people. Really think niche. Really think, what do we do really, really well? It doesn't mean you can't do the other stuff, but how do you want to talk about it?
Do you think that this is in a good position from, I guess, in its position being third here on this list, or do you feel like it should be higher or even low? Or I guess, yeah, do you think it should be higher? Like, do you think it's in the right spot?
That's a good question. Again, I think when you think about the elements of story, this would be more towards the bottom, because when you think about a story, if you were going to tell a story, you would want to talk to the person about their problem and what they have. You'd want to talk to them about how you are a unique and qualified guide to help them solve that problem. So, do I understand their problem? Do I have empathy about their problem? Like, can I really appreciate it? Have I been through that before myself? What makes me a qualified guide? Like, why am I able to solve their problem? Those things are really, really important. What are the consequences of us not solving this problem? Like, what's going to happen in your business if you don't get this fixed? What's going to happen in your business if you do get it fixed? These are really important elements. And the services portion is really kind of the plan. Like, if you were to put this in a different perspective, let's put this in the context of New Year's resolutions, because we just had those in the past month, and somebody really wanted to lose weight. Okay. If you just start off with the plan right away, you're going to lose them. If you put the plan too far at the bottom, they might not get to it. But the plan is kind of in the middle, because you want to express that you understand their frustration, their place in life, they're depressed or whatever their emotion is. You understand that. You've been there before. You've lost weight on a program. You know exactly what to do. Now let me tell you what the program is, right? It's kind of in the middle. So where it is on the page really depends on the story that you're telling. At this point with it, I don't think it's a problem where it is on this website, but I would want to focus more on a whole story. So that as you're scrolling, you're getting a story. That's what keeps people engaged. This is what people have to understand about the power of story. Every one of us has a cell phone that disrupts our day all day long. Every one of us. I mean, either we do it to ourselves or we get a notification and we check it. It's going on all day long. And yet, if you turn on a podcast and it's a really good story, you won't be distracted. If you go to a movie, it's a really good movie, you'll forget you even own a cell phone for 2 hours. If you read a really good book, you'll forget the world even exists outside of that book because it's so good. And again, that's what we want to capture on the website, is we want it to be a story. And when they get to the bottom, they say, yes, this is what I need. This is what I want. Right. So we want to tell that story. It's really, really important.
It's great stuff.
All right, and then about hands-on freight. Getting to the bottom. We got a contact page at the bottom. To me, it feels just very generic at this point. It just doesn't feel like there's a lot of purpose. It's kind of hopeful. Let's just hope that they fill this out when they get to the bottom. The calls to action are not as consistent. In fact, let's just scroll back up real quick and talk about calls to action. So we have the call to action in the upper right-hand corner. We have contact. I would say this: calls to action in the navigation bar should be highlighted. Should be a button. Should be a different color. Should be something so that it draws their attention to it. People always read left to right, top to bottom. So it's one of the first things they see. And if they just see contact, it's not really sticking out. And is that really what you want them to do, is to contact you? Maybe you want them to schedule a call. Maybe you want them to request a quote. Maybe you want them to contact us or fill out a form. So you can change that header from just plain old contact to something a little more specific to what you want to do by clicking on contact. So I would make the header a little bit more prominent with the call to action, make that call to action stand out a little bit more. Go back to the homepage real quick. Okay, now scroll down. So if you'll notice, as we're scrolling down, there's no calls to action until we get to the very bottom. There's nothing for us to do.
Between here.
Right. There's nothing there reminding us, hey, we can just go ahead. Like, if you've read enough, let's schedule a call. If you've read enough, give us a quote. If you've read enough, contact us. Because sometimes people don't need to get all the way through the story to be convinced. Mm-hmm. So we need to, have those calls to action throughout the page, just to make it real easy for them to know what to do. Plus, psychology tells us that people need to read something 3 times before they really kind of hold on to it. So if you do that, if 3 or 4 times throughout the scrolling of the page, you're telling them what you want them to do, schedule a call, submit a quote, then they'll start to go, oh, this is what they want me to do. They want me to submit a quote. Do I want to do that? Okay, I'll do that. So I just think the calls to actions need to be intermittently dispersed in there. It's much easier when you have the elements of story to fit those in there. All right. The about page real quick. We'll take a look at that. So a little bit more about the company. Stock photos, I'd get away from that, especially on the about page. Man, and the about page is really your story. Like, this is where you get to tell your story. So move away from the about language and move towards our story, Because again, people love great stories and they remember great stories. So what is your story? Everybody and every business has a story. So let's talk about that story. What led you to this point? What's been your experience? Where did you screw up? What's the best part about it? Like, tell your story and do so in a way that attracts people's attention and makes them want to read a little bit more. Let's scroll down just a little bit more. You do have a call to action there. That's great. Our principles. Okay, I love this. So let me tell you about this. I think that companies often overlook and misuse and oftentimes neglect mission, vision, and core values. All right. And I'll just give you just a quick 2 minutes on this. All right. Your mission is what you're setting out to do. All right. It's the how, it's the tactics, the strategy, or where you're going after. The vision, your vision statement is the result. What's the vision? What does this look like when the mission's accomplished? When you say mission accomplished, what's the result? What happens? So, for example, a mission statement might be like to make sure every child gets fed 3 meals a day. That's your mission, to make sure every child gets fed 3 meals a day. What's the vision? A world with no hunger. Like, that's the result, is a world where nobody's hungry. See the difference there? So your mission is what you're going to go do, and the vision is the result of what you're doing. Those are really important because it starts to establish the North Star for your company. Like, what are we going to say yes to and what are we going to say no to? When you know what yes is, it's really easy to say no. And if everybody in your company knows what yes is, then it's really easy for them to say no right on down. This isn't who we are. This isn't what we're doing. This isn't what we're going after. This isn't what we're trying to accomplish. And then core values are really important because these are the things you're not going to negotiate. This is basically what they have right here, our principles. These are our core values. Now, these got to be important and they have to matter, and they have to be the types of things that you're going to fire people for, or reasons why you hire people, or reasons why you fire a customer. So these need to be like really deep, and don't just stick with the ones like integrity. Integrity is table stakes. You should have integrity. But what's really like a non-negotiable for you, all right? Think through that and have about 3 or 4 or 5 of them at the most, and live by those things. Everybody in your organization should know what they are, and they should be committed to those core values. It should be an easy recruiting tool. Like, do you want to be a part of a company where we're all about customer first, fans first, the experience is the most important thing, or whatever your core value is going to be? I think that's really important to have. So I love the fact that he's got some principles on here. I hope those are the ones that are non-negotiable. I think that I would be a little bit more specific about it. So what about communication, for example? Responsive communication. We'll get back to you within 15 minutes, no matter what time of day. Like that's something we're not going to negotiate on. We'll get back to you within 15 minutes. So I'd go a little more specific on some of those. And then scrolling down just a little bit more, I hope those are real team members. I don't know that they are. I don't see Jim. I don't see Jim anywhere.
Where are you?
Right. So, I'm not sure. I think this is probably just a little bit more generic in nature. It does not look like a freight agent. So, and here's what I'd say about that is I think it's good sometimes to not only have key members of your team a part of your story, especially leadership, but really, anybody. Everybody on your team is a part of this story, but have something about everybody. So if it's a scroll over, like maybe you hover over Robin and a pop-up window shows you like her favorite food and her favorite vacation she's ever taken and what college football team she support, just stuff like that. I think those things just create an emotional connection with your team and allows people to feel like they know you a little bit better. Like, what does Robin care about? Maybe I care about the same things. I don't know. Maybe she's got a charity that she supports like no other, and it's the same one that I support, or something that it goes in line. Like maybe it's an ALS association. Oh, I support an ALS association. That's cool. We got something in common now. So on the About page, our story, I think you should include key team members and try to communicate what it is they care about, because that could create an emotional connection. People want to do business with people they like. At the end of the day, they really do. Especially in freight and transportation where there's problems and, there's challenges. It's still very much a relationship business. So make it a relationship, business, talk about your people and what they care about. Dude, we could do this for hours.
I've even got notes here in regards to everything that I'm taking down. This is some helpful stuff. And again, this isn't necessarily to like tear down people. This is just constructive, actionable feedback where they can tell their story better. And I think this will also do really good for them, whether it's, social content marketing, or even if it's just in your sales process and things to be thinking about with everything that you're talking about, storytelling and call to actions and, really talking about the results and the benefits. I think all that stuff is like, again, sort of all aligns, but is some really good actionable feedback that people can take to improve the websites. So